Let's be honest about the way most of us were taught to deal with autumn leaves. It usually starts with a Saturday in November. You get the rake out. You spend 4 hours dragging every fallen leaf into a designated corner. You pile them up 5 feet high, and you feel good about it. You look at that mountain and think, by spring, this is free garden soil. You let the snow fall on it. You let the winter rain soak it. You trust the process. Then April comes. You walk out with a shovel, ready to harvest your black gold. But when you peel back that top layer, you find a soggy mess. The leaves haven't turned into soil. They haven't broken down at all. They are just compressed into thick, slimy sheets that peel apart like wet cardboard. It smells sour. It's cold. And it is absolutely useless for your spring planting. Most people give up right here. They think they lack the green thumb for composting. I want you to know that you didn't fail. The leaves didn't fail. The model failed. What you built was not a compost system. You built a preservation system. To turn carbon into soil in weeks instead of years, we have to stop treating the pile like a garbage dump. We need to start treating it like a biological engine. An engine doesn't run just because you put fuel in the tank. Leaves are just the fuel. An engine needs a spark. Right now, your pile has fuel, but no fire. In biological terms, that brown leaf is almost 100% carbon. Carbon is energy, but on its own, carbon is incredibly stable. Think of a stack of firewood sitting on your porch. You can water it, you can pray over it, but without a flame, that wood will sit there for decades. Your leaf pile is exactly the same. It is a cold stack of fuel waiting for a match. The match in a compost pile isn't fire, it's bacteria. These microbes are desperate to eat those leaves, but they can't do it on a diet of carbon alone. Imagine trying to build a house with only lumber. You have no nails, you have no concrete. The bacteria are in the same position. They have the energy, but they are missing the protein to multiply. This is the carbon lock. Stirring a pot of empty ingredients doesn't make a meal. You need to break the lock. Before we strike the match, we have to build the fireplace. We are not just piling things up. We are mixing a reaction. The first step is breaking the architecture of the leaf. A whole leaf is designed to be waterproof. It has a waxy coating like a shingle on a roof. If you stack whole leaves, the water just runs off the sides. The inside stays dry as a bone, and the carbon remains locked. You must shred them. Run your mower over the pile until the leaves look like confetti. Shredding turns a waterproof shingle into a thirsty sponge. It creates millions of jagged edges for the bacteria to enter. Now, we need the accelerant. We need a liquid that delivers protein directly to every single leaf. Take a standard 5-gallon plastic bucket. Never use metal. The reaction we are starting is chemically active. Fill it with clean water. If you have animals, add 2 shovels of fresh chicken or rabbit manure. Stir it until it looks like dark, muddy coffee. If you don't have livestock, use 2 cups of blood meal or pelletized manure. This liquid is your spark. It is 100% organic and extremely potent. You are no longer just watering your garden. You are marinating the carbon in the fuel it needs to burn. Step 1. Establishing the foundation and surface structure. Now, we roll up our sleeves and put our hands into the soil. Before you drop a single shredded leaf, you must prepare the stage. This isn't just about finding a spot in the yard. It is about establishing a biological gateway between the earth and your engine. Find a patch of bare earth, roughly 4 feet by 4 feet. Do not build this on concrete, and do not use a plastic liner. Your compost needs to breathe from the bottom, allowing earthworms and indigenous microbes to migrate upward as the temperature shifts. Take your spade and lightly score the surface of the ground. You aren't digging a trench. You are just breaking the surface tension of the soil, so the moisture from your pile can bleed downward, and the life below can climb upward. Now, lay down your first layer of shredded leaves. Aim for exactly 6 inches thick. As you spread them, feel the texture of the confetti you've created. It should feel light, fluffy, and full of air. If you feel heavy clumps or matted sections, break them apart with your fingers until the layer is uniform. Step 2. Inoculation, priming the engine with liquid fire. Now that your foundation is laid, it is time to introduce the spark. Grab that 5-gallon bucket of liquid gold we brewed earlier, the nitrogen-rich slurry of manure or blood meal. This is the most critical moment of the entire build, because you are no longer dealing with dead matter. You are introducing a living culture of microbes that will act as the frontline workers for your decomposition factory. Take a smaller pitcher or a watering can and dip it into the bucket. Do not simply dump the entire 5 gallons at once. as the force of the water will wash away the fine leaf particles and create an anaerobic puddle at the base. Instead, use a gentle, sweeping motion to sprinkle the liquid over the 6-inch layer of shredded leaves. You want to coat every single jagged edge of that leaf confetti. Think of this as marinating a steak. The nitrogen needs to soak into the cellular structure of the carbon to break the carbon lock. The 1-1-1 rule for this step. Specific action. Sprinkle approximately 1 gallon of the nitrogen accelerator over the first 6-inch layer of leaves, using a watering can with a rose head. Sensory input. Watch for the color change. The dry, pale brown leaves should turn a deep, dark amber as they drink in the liquid. You will smell the sharp, earthy tang of the manure. This is the scent of active biology. Vital warning. If the liquid runs off the sides of the pile without soaking in, your leaves aren't shredded finely enough, or you are pouring too fast. Stop and toss the leaves by hand to ensure the moisture reaches the core. Step 3. Calibration, the precision of the sponge test. Once you have marinated your layer, you cannot simply walk away and hope for the best. You must calibrate the environment. In the world of high-speed composting, water is a double-edged sword. Too much, and you drown the aerobic bacteria, turning your engine into a stinking anaerobic swamp. Too little, and the microbial population goes dormant, leaving your carbon locked and cold. We use a manual calibration method called the sponge test to find the biological sweet spot. Reach into the center of your layer and grab a generous handful of the moistened, shredded leaves. Do not be afraid to get your hands dirty. The tactile feedback is your most accurate sensor. Squeeze that handful as hard as you possibly can in your fist. You are looking for a very specific reaction from the material. The 1-1-1 rule for this step. Specific action. Squeeze a handful of the mixture and observe the water output between your knuckles. Sensory input. If water streams out and runs down your wrist, it is too wet, add more dry, shredded leaves. If the leaves crumble and fall apart when you open your hand, it is too dry, add a splash, more liquid accelerator. You want the ball of leaves to hold its shape like a ball of dough, with only 1 or 2 drops of water appearing. Vital warning. Ignoring this balance is the #1 reason compost piles fail. A pile that is too wet will smell like ammonia or rotten eggs within 48 hours. If you smell anything other than damp earth, your moisture calibration is off. Step 4. Stacking the thermal battery building for mass. This step is where chemistry scales up into thermodynamics. You have prepared your first calibrated layer, but a single 6-inch layer will never get hot. You must repeat the layering process, shredded leaves, nitrogen liquid, tossing, and moisture testing, until you have built a massive, rounded mound. Size is not about aesthetics here. It is about insulation. A compost pile is essentially a biological battery, and it needs enough thermal mass to trap the heat generated by trillions of feeding bacteria. You are aiming for a pile that is at least 3 feet wide and 3 feet tall. This 3x3x3 cube is the universal tipping point for composting. Below this size, the cold autumn wind will cut straight to the core, stalling the engine. As you stack, keep the sides relatively steep, but the top rounded to shed excess rain. Think of it like a loaf of bread rising on your counter. You want it fluffy and oxygen-rich, not packed down like a heavy stone. The 1-1-1 rule for this step. Specific action. Continue layering shredded leaves and liquid accelerator until the pile reaches a minimum height of 3 feet. Sensory input. As the pile grows, you should feel a slight spring when you press your palm against the side. It should feel like a dense cushion, not a solid wall. Vital warning. Do not settle for a small pile because you ran out of shredded leaves. A 2-foot pile will stay cold and take months to break down. If you lack material, find more leaves or reduce the footprint 3x3 to ensure you hit that critical height. Step 5. Microbial ignition, managing the incubation phase. Now, you step back and let the microbes take the wheel. This is the stage where your chemical preparation transforms into a biological furnace. For the first 72 hours, your only job is to observe and resist the urge to interfere. Inside that rounded mound, the easy sugars and the nitrogen from your liquid gold are triggering a population explosion. Trillions of bacteria are vibrating, feeding, and multiplying, and their collective friction creates a massive thermal feedback loop. On the morning of day 3, you need to perform your first thermal check. Don't just look at the pile, use your senses to feel its pulse. Approach the mound while the morning air is still crisp. You should see thin wisps of steam rising from the crest of the mound, even if it's not freezing outside. This is the breath of your engine. Reach your hand carefully into the center of the pile. It shouldn't just feel warm, it should feel hot, like a bath drawn a little too high. If you have a compost thermometer, you are looking for a reading between 130 degrees Fahrenheit and 150 degrees Fahrenheit, 5 degrees Celsius. This high heat is your signal of success. It means the system is live, melting the carbon structures of the leaves and killing off any hidden weed seeds or pathogens. The 1-1-1 rule for this step. Specific action. Leave the pile undisturbed for exactly 3 days. Then check the core temperature by hand or thermometer. Sensory input. Watch for white steam rising from the top and smell the air around the pile. It should smell like cooking vegetables or sweet earth, not ammonia. Vital warning. If the pile is not heating up by day 4, it is either too dry or too small. Do not wait for it to fix itself. Recheck your moisture and, if necessary, add another bucket of nitrogen accelerator to jumpstart the heart of the engine. Step 6. Oxygen injection, the art of the internal inversion. By day 5 or 6, you will notice the temperature of your mound begins to dip. This isn't because the fuel is gone, it's because the fire is suffocating. Your trillions of microbial workers have consumed all the available oxygen in the core of the pile, and they are now gasping for air. If you leave it alone now, the system will shift into an anaerobic state. It will cool down, compress, and start to smell like a swamp. To keep the engine screaming at high heat, you must perform an internal inversion. Grab your pitchfork and prepare for the most labor-intensive part of the cycle. You are going to move the outside of the pile, the parts that were cool and dry, into the center. Simultaneously, you will move the hot, steaming core material to the outside. As you toss the material, flick your wrist to fluff the shredded leaves. You are effectively acting as a set of bellows, forcing fresh oxygen into every microscopic pocket of the carbon matrix. This fresh air acts like gasoline on a smoldering ember. Within 24 hours of this inversion, you will see the temperature spike right back up to its peak. The 1-1-1 rule for this step. Specific action. Use a pitchfork to move the outer layers of the mound into the center and the core material to the outside every 2 days after the initial heat spike. Sensory input. As you turn the pile, watch for the steam explosion when the core is exposed. You should feel the intense heat radiating against your face and see the white, ashy-looking fungi, actinomyces, already beginning to colonize the fibers. Vital warning. Do not just stir the pile like a pot of soup. You must physically relocate the material from outside in to ensure a uniform cook. If the material feels dry during this turn, sprinkle a little more plain water, but never more nitrogen accelerator, as you don't want to overfuel a running engine. Step 7. The finish line, harvesting the black gold. By day 18, the violent heat phase of your engine will begin to subside. This is not a failure. It is the signal that the transformation is complete. The thermophilic bacteria have finished their high-energy feast, and the material is now transitioning into a stable, mature state. You will notice the mound has shrunk to nearly half its original height. This consolidation is the physical evidence of carbon being restructured into complex humus compounds. As you approach the pile for the final time, the visual and olfactory cues will be unmistakable. The aggressive, hot, and steaming mound has transformed into something calm and substantial. Reach into the center and pull out a handful. The material should no longer look like shredded leaves. It should be a dark, uniform brown, almost black. The texture will be granular and soft, crumbling through your fingers like chocolate cake crumbs. This is black gold, the most valuable asset on your homestead. It is no longer waste. It is a living, breathing soil amendment that is ready to inoculate your garden beds with life. The 1-1-1 rule for this step. Specific action. Perform a final inertia check by turning the pile one last time and waiting 24 hours. If the temperature does not spike back up, the material is biologically stable and ready for harvest. Sensory input. Smell the finished product deeply. The sharp sense of ammonia or raw decay must be completely gone, replaced by a deep, earthy aroma like the forest floor after a spring rain. Vital warning. Do not use the compost if it still feels hot or smells sour. Immature compost will continue to break down in your garden soil, potentially robbing your plants of nitrogen as the bacteria finish their work underground. If it's still hot, let it sit for another week. You have successfully compressed a 3-year natural cycle into 18 days. You have closed the loop on your own land, turning the empty husks of summer into the fertility for next year's harvest. This is where your independence begins, not in a store, but in the soil. Even with the best intentions, the biology of a compost engine can move in directions you didn't anticipate. I've spent 2 decades making these mistakes, so you don't have to. If your pile isn't acting like the furnace we described, you are likely hitting one of these 5 invisible walls. 1. The ammonia ghost, over-nitrogenation. If you open your lid or peel back your tarp and a sharp, stinging scent hits your nose, you've overfueled the engine. You likely added too much liquid gold accelerator. The fix. This is a nitrogen-heavy environment. Spread the pile out and mix in 2 more bags of dry, shredded carbon leaves immediately. The science. Excessive nitrogen converts into ammonia gas, which escapes into the air, wasting your fertility and burning the very bacteria you're trying to grow. 2. The drowning engine. Too much water. If your pile is cold and smells like a swamp or rotten eggs, you've passed the sponge test threshold. The fix. You need to reintroduce air. Turn the pile twice a day for 2 days and add dry materials like cardboard or dry straw to soak up the anaerobic sludge. The science. Water has replaced the oxygen in the pore spaces, suffocating the aerobic microbes and handing the keys to methane-producing bacteria. 3. The matted leaf shield. If the center of your pile is bone dry, despite you pouring gallons of liquid over it, you skip the shredding step. The fix. You cannot fix this with more water. You must break the pile down, run the mower over the leaves again, and rebuild from step 1. The science. Whole leaves act like shingles on a roof, shedding water outward and protecting the dry carbon core from the very moisture it needs to rot. 4. The predator magnet. Wrong inputs. If you see rats or flies swarming your pile, you likely added kitchen scraps that don't belong in a high-heat engine, like oils, dairy, or meat. The fix. Remove the offending material immediately and cover the entire mound with a 4-inch armor layer of clean, dry straw or finished soil. The science. These materials undergo a putrefactive decay that signals to pests, unlike the sweet, earthy fermentation of plant-based materials. 5. The thermal leak, too small. If your pile is perfect in moisture and nitrogen but refuses to heat up, check your dimensions. The fix. If your mound is only 2 feet tall, it's a heat-leaking battery. Combine it with another pile or add more bulk until you hit that 3-foot-tall critical mass. The science. Without enough mass, the heat escapes into the cold air faster than the bacteria can generate it. Let's do the math, because this is where the numbers get interesting. One 18-day cycle with this engine produces roughly 10 large bags of premium-grade organic compost. In a typical garden center, that black gold would cost you anywhere from $15 to $30 per bag. That is $200 of pure fertility sitting in your backyard, created from waste you were going to throw away. But the real return on investment isn't just the money staying in your pocket. It's the transformation of your soil. At 30 days, you will see a flush of life as the indigenous microbes from the compost colonize your garden beds. At 60 days, your soil's water retention will skyrocket. You'll notice you are watering 40% less because the humus is holding moisture like a sponge. At 90 days, the nutrient density of your crops will shift. Your tomatoes will be heavier, your peppers sturdier, and the deep green of the leaves will tell you the plants are no longer starving. This isn't just a gardening trick. It is an economic declaration of independence. You are not just a consumer of food anymore. You are a producer of resilience. For decades, the industry has trained us to believe that fertility comes from a bag, and that we are helpless without their chemical inputs. They want you to believe that nature is slow, difficult, and requires their miracle products to function. But now you know the truth. Nature already solved the problem of waste, and she solved it for free. Independence is not a bunker. It is a plate, a pantry, and a working system in your backyard. Every bucket of liquid gold you brew, and every mound of leaves you melt, is a vote for your own autonomy. You are closing the loop. You are turning the empty husks of summer into the life force of next spring. Do not try to redo your entire property this weekend. Start small. Start with one 5-gallon
We'd love to
bucket.
have you join the
Start
family
with
here at
one
Silas Farm.
4x4
Just
patch
click
of
the subscribe
ground.
button.
Build one engine. Watch the steam rise, and let the results convince you. If you are ready to stop buying fertility and start growing it, subscribe to the channel. Tell me in the comments which system you want to build next, and we will build it together. The goal is not perfection. The goal is independence in layers.